What's up, guys? CJ here, and I'm going to be doing a replay review of the current rank 1 challenger player in the Korean solo queue, and that's going to be Ashe here, which is Prey. So as you know, has been around for a long time, KT, Longzhu, etc., all that stuff. So the reason why we want to look at a game in particular that's not the jungle, and we're getting back to it because we just finished finals and all that, and we've done some opto reviews in the mid lane, so we kind of want to look at some top lane and some AD carry reviews and see how that our knowledge of how the jungle plays can shift into the dynamic of what the AD carry's movement is like, or how they're going to play the lane, and all this sort of interesting stuff that we're going to get into. So in this game, we're going to focus mainly on the perspective of Ashe, which is Prey, and we also have other high challenger players here, Kramer here, and I think, I forget someone else is in here, right? So let's just get into it. So we're going to keep perspective onto the red side here. And so when we're thinking about what's going on, we're thinking about a couple of things. The first thing I want to point out in this game is that, very interestingly, he's walks in his base and he's deciding here. You saw that he had the Doran's Blade here, but he ends up refunding it, and you'll see what his thought process is, and might as well change this up as well. So he opens up with a Doran's Blade and a pot, but he ends up undoing it and then going for the D shield. And for those of you that don't know and haven't picked this up in your gameplay yet, I'm going to talk a little bit about why this is important and what it does, right? So the D shield, as compared to the Doran's Blade, it gives 6 health every 5 seconds. Basic attacks deal an additional 5 health or 5 damage to minions on hit, right? So your last thing is a little better, your shove is a little bit better, and the unique passive, obviously, regain an additional 20 health over 10 seconds after taking damage from an enemy champion, right? So, as compared to the D-Blade, which is 8 AD, 80% health, and 3% lifesteal. So let's take a look at some of this, right? 6 health every 5 seconds. That's gonna be, times 12. So it's roughly 12 times 6, 72 health a minute, right? So insofar as that passive keeps on going, you're going to get 72 health a minute, right? So the fact that the D-Blade gives 80 health basically means that if you survive a minute with the D-Shield, you're going to break off even from the health, 72, 80, roughly the same. And you shouldn't be dying within the first minute anyway, right? It's pretty self-explanatory to play. And insofar as of course, to regen, your health can't be at full, so if your health isn't capped, which is perfectly fine, you do one trade and then you back off or whatever it is, you're going to be able to get the 80 health back. Now the 3% lifesteal is a bit interesting. So if you think about what 3% lifesteal means for on a champion like Caitlyn, right? Let's say Caitlyn has 80 AD, right? If Caitlyn has 80 AD, 3% of that is going to be no, what the fudge is 3%? Like 1% of that is 0.8, so 0.8 times 3 is 2.4, right? So they're going to be, Caitlyn, for example, with 80 AD is going to get 2.4 HP back per auto, assuming their HP isn't capped, right, at full HP. So if you think about that, it's 2.4 HP every auto. Now, if you look at the D shield, regains an additional 20 health over 10 seconds after taking damage from an enemy champion, right? So that's the minor trade-off that you have. And so 20 health over 10 seconds after taking damage from an enemy champion. So that's roughly 120 health per minute if you're being super efficient with it, right? So which do you think, like in terms of trading, which is better, right? If this is 120 health, so 20 times 6 and 10 times 6, so 120 health per minute if you're using it to maximum efficiency, or 2.4 health per auto, right? How many times are you going to auto in a minute? You're going to auto the wave, maybe per 6 per wave, maybe you do like 3 per minion, because your minions are going to push it in too, so maybe 18 times 2.4, 20 times 3, that's 60. That's like nowhere near the efficiency that you'll get from D Shield, right? Like if I'm autoing every minion 4 times on Caitlyn, and I'm getting 2.4, let's round it up, 2.5 health per auto, right? So, and there's 6 minions. 6 times 4 is 4, 4 autos per minion. 24, let's round it to 25. 25 times 2.5 health, that's like 75 health, right? So if you maximize the efficiency of D-Shield, you're going to be healing way more than the effective lifesteal that you're going to have, just mathematically, assuming that you're trading in the correct time pattern, right? Every 10 seconds. And obviously 8 AD, that's going to be the trade-off, but the thing about 8 AD is that if you're not the burst champion, right? Caitlyn's not trying to burst you down. Caitlyn and AD carries in general are trying to, hit you and wear you down, right? So insofar as I'm regenning effectively on Ashe more than you're dealing damage to me and regenning, I'm regenning more than you are, and I won't die to your 8 AD because I'll just take profitable trades, and I'll keep on taking profitable trades. My passive and unique passive are way better than your 80 health and 3% lifesteal, so that I'm eventually going to overcome you through straight regen in this lane phase, right? And that's effectively like how it's going to go. So I took a solid 5 minutes to talk about D-Shield because D-Shield is so important into the AD carry meta. And obviously you pick up 1 pot on top so that you don't you're allowed to maybe take some poor trades, get some minions, etc. And obviously, your shove is stronger, right? Like 5 physical damage to minions on hit. Like that's almost, the 8, so your shove isn't like really, really horrible. So if they ever shove back. Additionally, this is a lane that you're almost never gonna be able to get a kill in because Caitlyn has high range and Karma is just one of the safest supports in the game, right? So Thresh is gonna look for all-ins, and most of the time. Now, if you were gonna put all your eggs into a basket on all-ins, you would go longsword, right? You'd be like, all right, Thresh and Hook, we're going all in. This is our one shot. My longsword 1080. I'm gonna try and do as much damage as possible to kill them. But no, like you don't need to do that. Koreans have this playstyle where they're just gonna soak pressure, right? They're gonna take in as much pressure as they can. They're gonna force the enemy jungler to come here to me and force him to put pressure on me. But I'm gonna survive. Whereas NA laners are like, okay, I need my jungler to come pressure me so we can die. It's like, no, you should just soak pressure, right? And that's the Korean more-esque playstyle. And so, as we go into this game, I want to make it apparent on why this D-Shield buy is so important. And when D-Blade is apparent, right? D-Blade is important. Now you might think, okay, so if Caitlyn or if Prey is gonna build D-Shield, why shouldn't Caitlyn build D-Shield, right? And it's just the overarching mechanics of Caitlyn, right? Like if Ashe is going to be able to, trade every time an instance, basically Caitlyn's gonna say, all right, you can stand there in region. I'm just not gonna let you hit me, right? I outrange you. I'm gonna stand behind the minions, so I'm not gonna get hit by a volley, right? Sure, you're gonna get your passive region and your passive region, but I'm never gonna let you hit me. If I play perfectly optimal, I don't need to play defensive and let you hit me because I'm Caitlyn and you're Ashe. Additionally, I have Karma, so even if I do get hit, I have a shield, right? So there's like no problem. And obviously the support items are pretty standard. We won't go much into the itemization of the other lanes because we want to focus on how Ashe is playing this game. So we open up with a ward over here, and that's going to be the most standard part of this game because we want to see which side the jungler starts. And from now on, I'm going to lower this out of the item comparison until his next buy, where he's going to figure out what he wants to do and all this important stuff. And we're going to move it up and down as we see the jungler and see how much CS they have and all that stuff, right? So outside of that, what's important to this game? Well, we have Elise versus Ivern, right? So Elise is going to win against Ivern in 1v1s. Yasuo with TP versus Victor without TP. Now, surprisingly, the cleanse coming out for Victor means that the Elise ganks are going to have a lower percentage play because he's going to save that for the Elise Cocoon or Tornado. But Yasuo recognizes that he's the melee in this matchup, and he's going to have a hard time farming against Victor most of the time, so he's going to opt into the TP. That means the mid laner has an inherent push and disadvantage, and that means Ivern's going to have stronger invades. Top lane is a tank versus tank matchup. Pretty standard. Sejuani, the top lane, has been making an interesting appearance. And in the bot lane, as we already described, Thresh is going to look for all-ins, but they're not going to go super all-in because they went for the D-Shield start, which is safer than going for the longsword start, right? So already we know that their bot lane is going to shove in, right? Karma always shoves any other support 100% of the time, unless it's exactly Lulu, maybe, right? But Caitlyn is obviously going to shove, and you see Caitlyn opens up with a shove. Our Sejuani leashes, so the enemy team is going to know that Elise is starting top, and that's expected, right? It's expected that, okay, their bot is going to shove us in, our mid is going to get shoved in, and our top, because Sejuani's leashing, is going to get shoved in. All three lanes are going to get shoved in, which makes it very easy for Ivern to go for a certain amount of steals, right? So we kind of expect Ivern to be invading here as soon as he realizes that, oh, Sejuani's missing a little bit of mana, 389, maybe he'll get to lane and have 400, but he's not in lane already, so he'll probably top leash because bot didn't leash, right? So a lot of the time, wherever the Ivern is, we know Ivern isn't here, but we don't know if Ivern is starting blue, red, R, camp, whatever it is, right? We know a lot of the time Ivern's going to be looking for an invade because 3 lanes are going to shove up. So we're going to try to shove as well, right? We want to protect our Elise a little bit. Even though our shove isn't great, we're going to try and protect our Elise. And Elise thinks, okay, all 3 lanes are shoving. I don't really want to gank the top lane because Sejuani needs all 3 spells to gank QE, and obviously W is her initial skill generally. Yasuo, we can gank for Yasuo at level 2, and we can gank for bot at level 2 because Thresh can as QE at level 2. Ivern thinks, okay, don't want to gank for Gragas at until level 3 because Gragas, skills W pretty early and he wants the Q slow and the E body slam. Victor has no real CC, and Victor is already going to oppress the mid lane because Yasuo opted into TP, so he's just going to zone in out of CS. So all I have to do for my mid lane Victor is, watch the jungler and ping out roams from the laners, but he should know that already. So if I'm Ivern, all I need to do is watch out and counter gank and match for the Victor. In terms of the bottom lane, you want to gank for Karma at 3, but because Ivern knows that Elise's plan is bottom to top because Elise shouldn't be ganking top, I expect Ivern's route to be something like this, or red into blue invade. And that's the most standard route because he wants to counter gank mid, Ivern wants to counter gank mid or match mid, as well as looking to stop the gank on our bottom side. So all that going into hand, we as Ashe still want to push because we want to protect our right side jungle. And so you see I'm going for autos, Thunderlord's procs. Try and get a relic proc here. Nice. But you see how Caitlyn's always going to shove us in. Caitlyn Karma's always going to shove us in. So we're going to try our best, right? We're going to try our best, but we're going to take the wave back. It's okay. We're going to try and take the wave back as much as possible. And get a couple autos here. And we're going to try and keep the wave around here because this means that our wave is in a good spot for the Elise gank, potentially. Right? This is the Karma Q. And you see how we move into the wave because the Karma Q won't land because they'll hit the first minion, right? So you always want to play in the wave against Karma, but out of the wave, or also in the wave against Caitlyn because otherwise she'll net you, but move out of the way in case she does the Q animation, right? So Ashe generally wants to play in the wave against their team, while the enemy team wants to play in the wave as well, because if you're in the wave, then the volley won't hit you, and if you're in the wave, you're less likely to get hit by a thresh hook, right? So both sides of the bot lane want to play in the wave as much as possible, while still dodging the skill shots such as the Caitlyn Q. Right? And so they're going to hit level 2 first, because obviously they have the shove, so we're just going to play passive, we're going to play it slow. We're kind of looking to protect Elise. And Elise is like, okay, I can go for the bot gank, but Elise is going for the Gromp. And the reason why Elise is going for the Gromp is saying, okay, well, my bot lane's not level 2 yet, right? So Thresh can't actually make the play yet. So I have some extra time, I'm going to grab the Gromp, and then I'm going to look for the potential play. And so Elise says, okay, well, we know Ivern wants to counter gank me bot and wants to protect their mid lane, right? So Ivern could have cleared left side jungle. He clearly didn't steal my right side jungle because I just did it. So his most likely route, if he wanted to match me on the bottom side of the map, would be to do this and then clear his bot side jungle. And that means that if he does want to counter gank me, then a lot of the time he could take the blast cone over and he could be in the pit. Now, because Ivern isn't like Lee Sin who can war jump out, he'll get seen by the scuttle. Graves E over, won't get seen by the Scuttle, but Ivern in particular will get seen by Scuttle. So we're going to take the Scuttle while we're waiting for bot to get level 2. And we don't really want to fight in the wave. We don't really want to gank bot in the wave because the wave is too big. We don't want to fight inside the 5 minions, right? So pretty standard play. Now, Ashe knows all this, right? You might seem like, okay, well, you know, you're talking from the perspective of the Elise, right? That doesn't make much sense when you're talking about Ashe. No, every player should know what every other player is thinking, and that's how you play a coordination team. So we find Ivern here. So when we find Ivern here, we see he has 8 CS. What does he have when he has 8 CS? Well, you see that Ivern, in this particular case, it was bugged a little bit there, has both buffs, right? So red, blue, so that's 2 CS 100% of the time, right? So he's level 3. So what other types of CS could he have? Well, he could have gotten, how does he make from 2 to 6, right? He could have 6 from Raptors and have a clear level 3. Can he get 6 any other way? No, Krugs, he'll have 2, and then he needs to pick up, you know, another 4, so maybe he did the whole clear, this, but then he would be level 4, right? So that doesn't make much sense either. And we also see that the Raptors are missing. So this is pretty clear indication that this camp, and Krugs are all up. And that'll play into the decision-making process that Elise makes. Additionally, Ivern also sees that Elise has 4 CS, right? And both buffs, that means he picks up 2 CS. None of these camps just give 2 CS, right? So it's because if you did like smalls or whatever, you wouldn't hit level 3 on Elise. So he knows that the Gromp and the Scuttle are gone. So this is going to play into our decision. But we as the bot lane Ashe, we get pushed in. We can't really do too much. All we can do is ping out that their champions are moving, and we're pinging out. But we see a fight going on here. Now, Elise has got to play with the mid laner, but their bot lane has first movement rotation, so our mid's going to back off, our jungler's going to back off, and we're going to reset this position a little bit. Okay? So cool. Now, they're still going, and they get the Victor Flash, seemingly, right? All in all, cool. We're playing it perfectly fine as Ashe. Pretty normal. Miss 1 CS here. Now, Elise is here. Now, obviously, the bot lane is aware that Elise is in the area, so the bot lane has 2 simple wards. 1 ward here, 1 ward behind them, right? You kind of typically want to ward here so you can see the blast cone, because if you only ward here, the blast cone can go over, and then Elise can gank from behind. So typically, one of the bot laners wards here, and the other bot laner wards here, because you typically ward here, but because you don't have coverage here, you would just ward here, and maybe even here, to see the blast cone go over the wall. And so they back off, so Elise is, not able to gank that scenario. But Elise might still be looking for it. We'll see. And Elise looks like he's going for the gank. Get the hook on. Auto. Get the ignite. Auto. 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 Yeah. We'll use our heal. Perfectly fine. And then we'll go for the next person. We get onto Ivern. Flash Flay. We pick up 2 kills. And then Thresh picks up the 3rd. Alright, so pretty solid. We have our doubles. And now we're up 1 CS. We're going to push in this wave. So their bot lane is going to lose a lot of EXP. And, this is just the state of the way. This is just the state of the game, right? So, what actually happened there, right? Our bot lane was shoved up, right? Mid laners are here. Top laners are here. Elise wants to look for a bot gank, right? Elise is going for the aggro bot gank. And, maybe this is where, maybe this isn't. But Thresh has flash, so he can make a play fast enough that even if Elise shows on a ward here, they can get to this scenario fast enough. Ivern knows this. So Ivern's like, alright, I had 8 CS. So I know that Elise is probably going to go for this gank, right? Elise could definitely go back, Elise doesn't really want to fight mid because we have a TP, or they have a TP mid. And, it's like a losing 2v2 in general. I'll just match it. And it's a far cry away to go all the way back in the cycle to the top lane, right? So Elise's most valid play is probably going for this bot gank. So what does Ivern do? Ivern goes, does the Krug smite. That's why he's at 10 CS. And then they go for the bot counter. But obviously, Kramer didn't flash the hook. This is the most important part of this scenario. And now with 2 kills, up 6 CS, what do you think his buy is going to be here? With his buy being 1451, he has a couple of options. He can go for the Bilgewater buy, or he can go with the BF Sword buy. Right? And either play is really good, but you typically want to also pick up a pink ward at some point in time. So he's going with the Bork buy, which is perfectly fine, between Essence or Bork. Bork is the one that's going to win you lane a lot more often because Essence doesn't do much for you in lane. You're not lifestealing, you're not doing all this stuff. And, you know, you can definitely go Hurricane after that. It's perfectly fine either way, right? So we're going to retract this, and we're going to see how this plays, right? So we know that Ivern cleared bot side jungle, right? Ivern's most likely route here because the bot lane is a reset situation is top side jungle or invasion. But invading Elise is a little greedy by Ivern, right? So we as Ashe know that we're pretty safe unless Ivern, you know, decides to go straight for us in the bottom lane. Well, we see Ivern over here. When we see Ivern over here, he has 14 CS, right? So we know that he was going to go to top side, picks up 1 CS here, picks up 3 CS here, meets our 14. And we knew that he did Raptors before, so his most likely camp coming up is going to be Raptors. And so we know all this information, and Elise knows all this information, right? So Elise is like, all right, my dudes, I know Ivern just went for the top camps, and I don't think he'll counter gank, or I don't think he'll move into my top side jungle because his Victor's low on resources and mana, is freezing. Our top laner's pushing in their top laner, right? And so our top laner can play safe against Ivern. He won't really die if Sejuani plays it correctly. And if he tries to 1v1 me by invading these camps, then I'll beat him because I'm Elise and he's Ivern, right? And my Sejuani will rotate first. And our Yasuo will rotate first based on the position of the lanes, right? Can Ivern go for the mid gank? Potentially, but the wall is up, so the Q will never land because we know Ivern's flash is down. And can we go for the top gank? Q will never land because our flash is up, right? E flash from Gragas could come out, but I don't think they can solidify a kill onto the tanky Sejuani. And obviously getting kill into Sejuani means less because that means I can gank bottom on Elise, the proactive lane, right? Bot lane is most crucial lane in the game. So what am I going to do on Elise? I'm just going to go for a straight counter gank, right? And you see her walking straight down because he knows that Ivern is over here. And this is a setup scenario that occurs, right? Additionally, we have doubles, so maybe they want doubles. And you see us on Ashe, prey on Ashe, is going to be thinning, right? Why do we want to thin the wave? So that it's moderately equal so that we can get a good play off. So Thresh is going for the flank. You saw Thresh put 3 really strong wards. Didn't go for Mobies, put 3 strong wards here, right? Goes for the play. Gets the hook. And then we're just attacking. We're attacking from safe position. Solid, right? We kill the Caitlyn, the priority target, the most important target because we don't want them to get the most amount of resources. And what are we going to do here? We have a couple of options. We can freeze or we can push. Well, we're okay staying here, right? We're perfectly okay staying here. Our buy isn't really strong. How much is our buy? Oops. Our buy is 7. You know, we can finish a Bilgewater, but that's not really strong buy, right? We also still have red. We can just freeze the wave, and then they'll lose all these minions. Look at how many minions. Like 32 to 29. It's going to miss way more. Karma's trying to get some EXP here, but we're okay. And so we're going to play in the wave. Our buffs expire, but it's okay. We're still freezing. They're still going to lose out a lot of minions. And look at the ward coverage that we have for the next 2 minutes. If we just push base here, we wouldn't be making maximum efficiency of our ward coverage, right? So we see Ivern show up on the map again. And this is an indicator for us to go for a play, right? Because we noticed that Ivern's here and Elise is also on that side, we just go for a straight 2v2 play. We're level 4 to level 3, level 3. So we're going to put Thresh into a play, right? And we're going to land the hook, go on the priority target here. Even if we don't kill it, it's perfectly okay, right? Because we have lifesteal. We have the Vamp Scepter. Now see that Ivern has 20 CS. So from the 14 to the 20 means that he picked up Raptors, right? So the only camp available for Ivern right now is going to be the Krugs. But again, we talked about Ivern wanting to protect the mid laner, right? So when the mid laner finally, you know, wants to go for a shove because he's out of mana, he needs help shoving this, right? That's why Ivern's playing around mid, so that he can get the shove off to let the Victor base, and that's the most important part of Ivern's play here. Elise is aware of that. They're fighting in the river. It's perfectly fine. But because we know Ivern's there, our play on Ashe is fairly simple. Trade and then lifesteal back. Use our D-Shield to lifesteal. Use our Vamp Scepter lifesteal. And we'll out-sustain the Caitlyn. Right? So here we're going to go for autos. We're going to go for Relic Shield proc. Go for autos here. And we're just going to autos. It's okay if we give up a couple CS, right? We're just going to sustain way faster. She has D-Blade, 6% lifesteal. Okay, we have 10%, you know? And Ivern spacing on the left, we see that. So our play is we can still play aggro, right? We're level 5 to level 4 to level 4, level 4, right? That means we have 1 level edge. And we're just going to have such a ability to sustain and out-sustain her, right? Okay. So we established that the only camp Ivern can go to right now, because it's not 7:15 for the first buff yet, is going to be Krugs. So we expect that a lot of time. And Elise is expecting that a lot of time. So you see Elise coming down, right? And this is a pretty solidified play. We're going to throw the E, right? The reason why we throw the E is because we don't have clear vision if Ivern is going to make some type of a play to go over the dragon with a Q and then wrap around this way, and then, you know, maybe use this blasting cone or whatever. So we'll throw a safety E, and then we land. We ignite, get the free kill, right? But here's Elise, so we're going to play with Elise. Between attacking two, we're going to attack the lower target. We die here. Apparently, the heal wasn't up yet, maybe? Let's see how close this heal is. This heal is really close. This is a micro misplay, because if Thresh had let the hook tug twice, then that's longer duration. The Caitlyn's not autoing. So Thresh probably thought that we could 100 to 0 the Caitlyn faster. But the better play is probably just to let the hook tug twice and then flay. That way we can get an extra auto attack off. Thresh micros it. And our heal is coming up soon. We flash forward for the heal. And we shouldn't be auto attacking the shield here, because we should be waiting for the Ivern shield to wear off. So we should be autoing Ivern until the shield is off. Then we want to kill the low HP target. We do have heal here at the last second though, but we don't end up using it. So that's a micro misplay. Where maybe we could have survived. So there are two micro misplays, one by Thresh and then one by us on this scenario. But it's perfectly fine. They're going to shove out the wave. And now we look at the CS. We're up 9 CS. We're up in builds. We're up in levels, right? Because they're going to lose. We're 5-5 to 4-4. So bot lane is effectively over insofar as there's no play by Ivern or any TP play. And we buy parts of the Bork, we buy our boots. You know, pretty self-explanatory. And why bot lane is so important this game is because the first dragon is Infernal, right? And so the Infernal is going to be crucial in the state of the game, because when we look at the items that people are going to build, Elise is going to build some AP, Jester is going to build IE, and that crit multiplier is important. The more AD you have, the more the crit multiplies, and obviously Ashe, AD carry. So again, Thresh setting up really, really strong wards at the trade of some HP, right? The trade of some HP for wards is crucial in deciding how Ivern moves. Ivern has 22 CS. We see him right over here, so you know we know exactly where he is. And we're level 6, so what do? Just freeze, right? Simple freeze. Maybe we want to go for a jam. Oh, their bot lane is conceding. Their bot lane is going mid, conceding. What are we going to do? Do we want to shove, or do we want to... Yep, so we're going to turn our situation into a shove. We're going to throw the arrow. You know, maybe, you know, protect someone or whatever. We feel like memeing a little bit with our arrow. Okay? And now Thresh doesn't need to be here, right? We can just solo shove. But this is okay too, because we're going to try and defend. We're not going to defend. And leaving the wave in a pushing position like this is okay. Because if the wave eventually crashes into the turret, then they'll miss all the CS anyway. But the fact that the mid turret dies is perfectly fine. We expect the mid turret to die first because it's range versus melee and doesn't really have the potential. Thresh is looking for a play here. Throw the E. Gonna land the hook, of course. And Elias. Get the free kill. And then they're gonna continue. Proc red buff. Elias has red buff as well. His heal. Nice. Solid. And then they're going to trade back one turret here. Solid. So you might think, oh, the way Ashe is playing has nothing to do with Ivern, like, or Elise, but that's not true. She wouldn't be freezing in certain spots. She wouldn't be shoving in certain spots, right? Like, if we know Ivern's over here and Elise is, you know, counter-ganking for us, that makes our play of thinning the wave a lot more optimal than if we had just let the wave shove in, right? So that we don't get ganks. So it's all one moving machine that allows us to play this certain way, in the lane phase at least. So now we look at our buy. Pretty standard buy. We'll go and buy the Bork. Bot wave is shoving to us on a siege minion wave, so it'll be completely fine. And we complete our Bork. Get an extra dagger because will be going for an attack speed item for sure. And top lane's fairly quiet. Mid lane's in the situation it is. It's fine. Jungler is playing accordingly to the bot lane scenario because top lane is not as important as bot lane and the Inferno is up. But now Elise probably wants to play on the top side because that's where the Herald is. So we could have even seen a swap here if we really wanted to. Ashe could have swapped to top, but leaving the wave in the position would have been really bad because it would have just frozen. So, but we definitely want to look for an opportunity to go top side as Ashe because now we want to play on the Herald side of the map because Herald, because Dragon is down. Which is why we're shoving, right? We want to shove. Maybe shove one more. We want to play safe. We want to hug. We don't want to hug these side. We see both of these champions, and we're going to go down. We're going to shove, shove, and then we're going to look for a rotation, right? We want to rotate to... We already got the bot turret, so now we want to rotate to one of the two other turrets. Can we 100 to 0 her? Probably not. Karma's behind. We see Ivern in the river, so it's a little unsafe. And now we want to move into the jungle, right? We have... no wards on Thresh here, but we can still move into jungle because Caitlyn's farming. And, this is going to be a situation. I'm not going to get greedy. I'm not going to cut. I'm going to hook. Tell Caitlyn. Okay, right? This is a spot where you can go for the tier 2. The wave's coming in. There's no one to defend because top lane is top, mid lane is mid. And this is going to be a pretty strict spot that allows in the bot turret autos. So usually you want to take the outers if you can, but you're not upset taking an inner scenario. A solid volley off. And then, so Elise is playing accordingly. Ivern's playing to his strength, right? Ivern's going mid. Ivern can't come bottom right now. Caitlyn's dead. Ivern could go mid or top. That's the only play that Ivern has. Coon into hook. Solid. And it's unlikely to go for inhib turrets, especially this early in the game. Most of the time we don't go for inhib turrets. So we're going to back off. This is going to meme a little bit. And then we're going to back off, get some mana, reset. And then now we're going to look to play mid-top side for the Herald, moving into these spots, right? So because Elise plays around us, we're allowed to play aggro. But if Elise doesn't play around us, we're going to be moving forward. And this might seem very, very intuitive, but you'll be surprised at how much over-aggression there is. We're not level 9, so we're not picking up Scrying Orb, but we'll pick up our tier 2 boots, which is our standard buy, and then we'll move into our attack speed item. Super solid. And now, this is a scenario where the TP comes into edge, because now we can establish a 1-3-1 here, sending Yasuo to the bottom side of the game, of the map. Additionally, we can also just let Yasuo do a couple autos here. We're definitely going to look for some autos, so we can chip a little bit. And Thresh is establishing left side vision, because left side vision is more important than right side vision here because of Herald, right? Pretty standard. And so Caitlyn's going to match, right? So now that the lanes have matched, that means Victor is going to be the one holding bottom a high percentage of the time, because Victor won't be able to hold the pressure of Ashe unless he has blue. And we see Ivern over here on the right. We can play aggressive. We can play aggressive, as much aggression as we want, because Elise isn't playing to farm. He's not clearing all these camps. He's playing for tempo, right? He's playing for ability to win the tempo game, because we've established vision here. And Yasuo gets to put pressure on the bottom side of the map. We'll put pressure on the mid side of the map. There's wards on the right. There's wards on the left. We're protected. Elise is going for red here, so we'll play a little bit safe unless there's a hyper engage. But they don't really have a way to engage outside of Gragas or Ivern. So we're looking for a topside rotation, maybe? Maybe the Herald? Who knows which one we want. Herald is going to enable us to go for an outer here. Throw an arrow, get a flash. Solid, right? Trading arrow for flash, super solid. But looks like we want more. I'll walk in. And with a death onto Ivern, this is almost certainly a turret. Now, if you go for the mid turret here, then, or if you go for mid here, it's just farm. But we can go for Herald, and then we can go for top. We can go for both, right? And then Dragon's coming up in 117. It's Cloud, or it's Ocean. Still fine. We're going to go for the turret. Yasuo is covering. And it is really one big cog machine that allows teams to play at this level instead of playing for individuals. This turret is almost certainly dead based on Elise's position in this. So she's just going for minions instead of the turret, because that means that there's less minions that survive, which means that it's more CS denial. It's more EXP denial. And so we're level 9 now. And, you know, we have 1k. Not enough for a super big buy. But we definitely want to go towards the dragon side, so we're going to move down. Play a little safe against Gragas. Pick up our scrying here probably. Proceed on to the game. And this is high level AD carry movement, right? So he decides to go for the Zeo, obviously picking up the item, going for the scryer. And then we're going to move to the dragon side, right? So where's Ashe supposed to go here? Remember, ranged champions are the ones that take down turrets, right? Ranged champions are here, Elise, Ashe, Thresh, right? So that's going to be your 3, and then Yasuo and Sejuani are going to be the ones. So 1-3-1, but in this particular case, 1-3-1 is the most optimal because this is the last turret out, and you want to play around the dragon coming up live, right? So this setup, perfectly standard. Both TPs are down, but Yasuo happens to be the one able to operate that. Cleanse comes out, standard. Getting autos, free autos when you can. Sure, hit the fucking cupcake, right? Finish off the cupcake. Herald goes for damage. Go for a little bit of damage because we're not too scared. Herald's going for some autos. It's okay if Herald dies. We're gonna heal off the redemption. Sure. And we're still operating the 1-3-1. TP behind coming out from the Gragas. We have to play a little bit safe now. We're gonna shift to the left because our Yasuo is coming from the left, right? So we're gonna kite upwards. And then, oh, we got hit by the Q. Now we're in a rough spot, but we still have our flash. We're playing aggressive so we can bait, right? We're not scared. We're not afraid to bait out a fight. Got lifesteal a little bit. And there's not much that we can do to get to the Gragas in his location. So all we can do now is just push, right? Situation's resolved itself. Looks like Victor is basing. And we know that with their scrying. So, super solid. We'll get the turret, and then we'll go for the dragon from there, right? Their respawn is pretty quick. Their TP is down. Now we have a high tempo situation where we have TP on the Sejuani, and they don't have any global, right? Additionally, Yasuo's TP is coming back up too. So we could go for the dragon here. But it looks like we're just going to let Elise solo it out, which is perfectly fine as well. Looks like we have 1k, so we have a solid buy here. Finishing up our Hurricane probably. We could also sell the D-Shield. Need 11. And finishing up the Hurricane. Okay? So, now that we've taken all 3 items and the dragon, the next objective is clearly the Baron coming up on the map. So Thresh knows we want to establish left side vision 2 minutes before the Baron comes up. And we're going to say, okay, so we have to play mid and top because we already took bot. So deciding between taking mid and top, which one is easier for us to get or which one is more important, it's really either one. We could, 3-1-1 or 1-3-1, right? I'm a big fan of going for the top in this scenario because it'll give less angles. Because we're winning, it's 3-16. Because we're the team that's winning, we're the aggressor, right? That means we want to minimize the amount of damage that they can do. So what can they do, right? They can engage with Gragas. If we're going down mid, then that means Gragas has multiple angles to come from. So maybe we go for top. But 1-3-1 is perfectly fine. But I prefer a 3-1-1 in my personal choice. But the reason why to take the turret, you go for a 3-1-1, but to control the map, you go for a 1-3-1, right? Because when you send your 3 in the middle, you have control of the left and the right side jungle. But if your 3 is on top, then you're kind of conceding the control you could have on the bottom side of the jungle. Going for autos, going for safe autos. Walking into the redemption, we're not scared. Not scared at all. Just going for autos. Gragas is here. We don't want to get ulted. Perfectly fine, right? So when Caitlyn dies, we reestablish the 1-3-1. Sejuani has TP. So Sejuani could go top. But look at the state of top lane. It's going to be self-pushing. So it already has tempo advantage there from the minions. So we're just going to stay here. So we establish the 1-3-1. We use the TP. He's going to go for the play. We know he doesn't have cleanse from his last play, right? So we're going to move up. We get stunned a little bit. Walk it out. We're not afraid to auto. We have lifesteal. We're okay. Perfectly fine, right? We're okay to take a little bit of damage. No big deal. Now we're going to auto the turret, right? Tier 2 is important. Our team getting some damage on the tier 3. Almost there. And we're going to be effectively lifestealing off this anyway. Look, they're dead. The only people are up with Caitlyn and Ivern. They can't protect it anyway. We're just going to auto-attack the minions to deny them a couple more CS here as well, right? There could have been 5 CS here. Now there's only 1. We're going to deny them a little bit more CS in case it gets the turret and they get to farm under CS, right? And now we're just going to go for the last turret. Now here's where you want to make sure to clear the bot side jungle, maybe steal the Krugs, because when you go for the 3-1-1, maybe you're giving them back a little bit of control of the bot side jungle, so maybe you want to clear all that out first. Looks like we're going to go for another Z item. I feel like this is okay because we're not actually fighting the Gragas at any point in time. Because we have 2 TPs, Gragas is always responding to the team, so we don't really need to build LDR or Grievous Wounds because we're just not seeing enough of Gragas because he has to respond, right? So there's no armor on Ivern or any of the other champions except for Gragas. Now we just want to take control of mid, top, center, and we want to go into try and get this top turret. Or use bait, because now the Baron's up, we can have a pretty standard bait. Push really fast, so that they have to respond to tempo. Maybe we go for a rush, maybe we go for a bait. Who knows what we want to go for, right? We do have Yasuo, so we can do it pretty quickly. And now we're going to take control of the left side jungle before our bait. Oh look, overextension, we're going to kill off the Caitlyn. Nice. So we can retract, or we can push. Well, our Sejuani's pushing, right? And Sejuani's going to get this turret. So we also want to push, right? We're going to go, and we're going to tempo out the last turret. Pretty solid play. You can see how Prey's movements are almost so macro-focused with almost perfect micro, right? Almost perfect, aside from that initial play where he didn't heal. But that's Thresher's fault as well, right? So look, Sejuani's tempoing off their base. They need to send people back. We're going to just go for the Baron. We cleared all this area out. Look at how many wards we have. We have left side control. Like, this is what NA should be doing in every region. This is what should be happening in every game. But, I don't see it on these regions. Alright, so we're going to TP in. And we're going to turn, right? Because we don't want to give a 50-50 in a game that's almost secure. So we're just going to turn. Just going to kite turn, kite in. Pretty standard. Gonna fight. No one can kill us. We're fine. We just use flash. We just use heal. It's all good. And then this is almost certainly going to be a forfeit. So there's no reason to go for a finish there because we're already in a one-game scenario. Insofar as our team can tank it, it's perfectly fine. Elise is building for the team with minimal amount of damage building into Leandre's, so she has some damage. Sejuani's playing for the team. He also has a standard build and a split. And now we have our PD. So we don't need to build super aggro, right? We don't need to go for static shiv. We don't need to go for, too much damage. We can just go PD, a more defensive-oriented item. And then, we're not getting bursted. There's no one on the team that can burst this. Victor can't burst this at this point, so we don't need to go GA or Maw. We won't get hundreds of zero. We'll just play it safe, get PD, and then get Executioner's Calling. And then we'll look to finish off the game with the outer. Or the inner. Both are fine. You want to play mid here because Dragon's coming up and you want to get the free dragon before anything else. Unless you get a really strong pick like Sejuani's doing. Yep. You get a pick, get a kill. Okay, so now you don't need to do the dragon right away, right? Because you got the pick. This jam, this is going to be bot inhib 100% of the time here. And they forfeit. So I feel like when I'm talking about Ashe, some of you might think, oh, well, this is pretty standard, right? This is exactly what I would do. I would have a situation where I'm not shoving or I'm, like I would play it exactly the same way. Like, would you ward this? Would you really ward this to see what Ivern's start location is? Because, like, that's something that's important because you think that Ivern's going to come to you a lot of the time, right? When Ivern comes top to bottom for level 3 gank, or when Ivern comes for the bot counter gank, he's going to try and get this, or he's going to try and do all these things. Like, are you really going to ward this to see when he does this? Because if he starts here, he's ratting top. If not, he's ratting bot. But it's most likely he's ratting bot. Are you actually going to, at the 3-minute mark, chase here? Or are you just going to farm here? Like, should you control tempo? Because if you chase, it's better for your team. But this might not be the best play for you. Are you actually going to chase? At the... at the play that occurs here, are you actually going to recognize that Elise is the one coming for you? And can you also recognize that Ivern's here? And if you do, are you still going to play it the same way? Are you going to thin the minions correctly? Are you going to go on the correct target? Are you going to play around Ivern showing up here? Right? like he is. Are you going to extend your scene? See that Iron's here? Finish off the kill. Follow up. And then shove. At this point, are you going to make sure that your play is like as optimal as it can be? Or are you going to, you know, not thin when you're supposed to? Are you going to not, like this thin is super crucial, right? Like, we see Ivern here. Are you going to thin these minions, or are you just going to let it shove? Again, this is a mismicro play. So all these things are important. Like, if you are going to do everything exactly how Prey did it that game, if you're going to justify your D-Shield buy, if you're going to go for the lifesteal to win lane, if you're going to thin properly, if you're going to freeze properly, if you're going to follow properly, if you're going to build the correct items, what do you need to do? You're going to go for the correct adders, play on the side of the objectives, control the wave management. If you're going to do all these things, then I guess you're a tier 1 challenger 80 carry. So I don't know if you guys actually learned something, but if you did, feel free to like the video and tell me about it. Thank you.